So we are honored today to have as our guest Christina Johnson, principal ballerina, repetiteur, instructor, and coached. The list goes on and on. Christina, very, very wonderful welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Christina, you have been a principal ballerina with numerous companies, Dance Theatre of Harlem, Complexions. You've worked with amazing people, you've had amazing partners, worked with numerous wonderful choreographers, a very, very extensive list. What has been one of your most impactful takeaways that you carry ongoingly with you?
Okay, there's so many. I think I'm going to stand from the perspective of me today looking back at that career. And what I get, which I didn't get then, is how much it took to do what I did, what it required of me on every single level. You know, when you're in it, you don't really think about it. You just do. I mean, you're living your passion. It's left me with just this tremendous gratitude and also like appreciation for myself, for what I did. It is no joke. You can't really know, like a ballerina, unless you were one, which is very, not many people get to be that. Even principal dancers, I wouldn't necessarily say are ballerinas. So maybe that's another conversation. But you know, what it took to do, I liken it to being a monk in a way where you are completely and utterly devoted to something, to this training for years at a young age. And it's very specific and you've got to do it a very certain way and highly demanding and the pursuit of perfection, you know, and at the same time, you are a channel really for something greater. You know, you're preparing your vessel so that you can channel this divinity. That's really what it is. And so I'm talking about that because I really couldn't have said this back then when I was in my career. It's only now. And so when I am with others in, you know, training or coaching, it's like that's inside of of my instruction, because that's what it was for me.
Thank you for saying that. I have to say, we've heard so many people speak, and it's the first time that anyone has really said, it was really hard and it took a lot of work. Yes, it's true. I think people have no idea.
And it's important too, because we're in a time where social media is just, I mean, that is life in a way. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's you know, everything bleeds through and threads through that. And so these younger generations of dancers now coming up, I've heard different conversations about, with social media, it seems like, okay, let's say you kind of brand yourself and you have your développé, your leg up in the air, and you have all these photos and you get 1 million hits and suddenly everybody knows you and you're like a dancing star. The craftsmanship of this thing that we do, that's why I talk the way I do about this, because it's more than just having really good technique or being really flexible or getting 1 million hits, or like it's even more than that. And that is not to say something is right or wrong, or there's no judgment around that. It's just to kind of stay curious about, wow, you know, what, as a teacher, you know, and mentor, like I'm like unpacking this thing that has been a part of my life since I was 7.
But now, as an instructor and as one who's kind of giving back to the next generation, what do you feel is most important for young dancers as they choose to go into this career? And what changes have you seen in the dance world? I mean, social media certainly is one of them, but what could impact the next generation as they move into their careers?
Things are changing like rapidly, and it's hard to really say. We can kind of speculate, but everybody's trying to figure this thing out. And so us creatives, this is the world we live in. I'm talking about choreography, I'm talking about being pliable, adaptable, listening, correcting, continuing, improvising. This is like the world that creatives live in. And so however that shows up is fine, as long as your spirit is moved by what you're doing. You're inside of what you're doing. And that, for me, the most important thing is that you connect to the light that you are. And because that's what you bring out in your craft. And in this case, we're talking about ballet. So we see it changing. It is changing. There's this amazing things happening that we, have been long overdue. Specifically talking about the dance world, the ballet world, even more specifically. So those things are happening, and there's even more that's happening because there's more that's going to be asked of us as a collective. But the arts are so vital. They're like the voice of humanity. With any dramatic historical events, the arts, music, drama, that has always fed the spirit. That has always brought hope or the creativity to what's possible. Arts is always like on that edge. And so what I weave into my teaching, I guess, is just come back to, this generation of dancers. I don't say these things. They live inside of how I teach. Maybe they'll come out in words. Maybe they'll just come out with the light that I'm carrying. Because I think it's a pretty remarkable thing to choose to do in your life. I have like honor for it. I am literally in awe, or let's say I feel like I just want to bow down to dancers who have chosen this. And today especially, I don't know, like, wow, I sometimes don't even feel like I have advice because we've just never been here before.
Dancing is getting better and better and better, but my goodness gracious, they better pay attention to the people that came before them, because they have no idea how much they have to learn from those people, such as yourself.
That's the piece too, like telling our history, telling our story. Now, I'm not just talking about Black people or people of color. I'm just saying, like, what are we passing down? What are we sharing? I've taught in some classes. I'm like, okay, does anybody know who I am? Not to say who I am, but like, what do you know about, like, who's in the front of the room teaching you?
So Christina, you have also ventured into areas that were not just dance. You've become a life coach, you've gotten a degree. I would say that you're a fantastic businesswoman. Can you talk a little bit about that and what took you in these directions, and how have these other skills added to your life?
It's all one big dance to me. But the things that I've done beyond my performing career, life coach, that was inspired from my work as a rehearsal director. First job after my performing career, and I didn't really know it was the end of my career till I kind of looked back and said, I think I'm done. But I transitioned from being in Europe to being in America, and I was a rehearsal director for Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet. And I was really interested, and I always have been interested in how people relate, how they communicate. Partnering for me was one of my best. I give me a partner dance anytime. Solo, I'll make it happen, but partnering dance is like where I just live and thrive, and in life as well. I was interested beyond just the studio, and how can I know more about this thing called life coaching? And I bring it up now because I weave that into my work, because I don't consciously do it. There's a way that I kind of observe life and kind of listen to it. And then that, is part of the dance. But then there's always been a track for me that's been about health and wellness and nutrition, and making sure this vessel that we depend on, and that this vessel is going to carry us through the rest of our lives, and we only get one. And so I've always been interested in that. Mindfulness, meditation, nutrition. I don't actually distinguish between my lessons and tools that I got from my dancing career with outside of my dancing career, because there are so many life lessons woven into this training that it's just like actually a life practice. I was recently on staff at Marin Ballet, and I was teaching the open division class. And this particular class ended up being a class that taught me so much about this, I keep calling it craft. Because in that class, I had 16-year-old and the oldest was 87. And anything in between, age-wise. And also coming at it from different places. Some were former dancers, some started dancing later in their life, some just love it, some, can't even leave the bar, but they're there and there's music and they see bodies moving and they wanted to learn. They wanted information, they wanted knowledge. And so what am I actually teaching? How am I actually teaching? And so again, I use the information I got from my dancing with everything, with how I relate, how I communicate, how I listen, how my body feels, all of that.
And I love that, figuring out how you're learning from them while they're learning from you. It's a two-way street. Christina, what do you hope for as the world moves forward? What do you hope for dancers, for artists?
The answer is not exclusive for dancers or artists. It is what I hope for humanity. And that is that we all remember the light that we are. And we are responsible for keeping that light shining as bright as possible. And that we reflect that in each other, for each other. So all of us are remembering. Because when we remember the truth of who we are, because we all want the same thing. And when we remember that, we're going to treat each other differently. We're going to make choices differently. Things are going to change. So again, when I reflect on my career, I wasn't consciously I wasn't thinking like, ooh, I'm going to go deeper and reflect on who's Christina and shine my light. No, but the practice and the training and the mentoring and the working with choreographers and going deeper and deeper and pushing and pulling and expanding and listening and like all of that, and being a vessel, as I said earlier, so the channel of divinity can move through you, like that is a life practice. I want to do that all the time. I feel that I have the courage now to actually say that. And what I mean is, it seems impossible. There are other people who get how important it is, these warriors of light. I think it's vital. And I think that's where, again, artists come in, like they are the way showers, the light bearers. And I don't know how we're gonna get there from here. And that's where it can feel impossible, overwhelming, even painful. So there's all of that, like all of that is here for us, and it's not separate from us. We are all in this together. It's the only way we're going to make it through. So then that's the kind of consciousness I would love to see, and it's happening. It is.
Golly, Christina, I feel like we've just had this great inspirational journey with you. That we're doing the interview, but we've gotten so much from your interview.
These interviews are so fascinating because, I haven't really thought about these things. You don't have a casual conversation around this. So it's interesting. It's kind of beautiful for me to actually hear my own words because I've never articulated this before. I have such gratitude. I mean, for my career and the people that helped grow me, and it's quite something. I'm still kind of in awe.
Well, thank you. I feel like I just listening to you talk is like we're just like riveted. It was great. It's so lovely. Thank you.
Wow, my pleasure. Wow.